Hi, this is Stephen Meade, lifelong entrepreneur, business owner, and global speaker. Over the years, I've read hundreds of books and spent thousands of hours developing what I call the BullsEye belief system. And I've used that system to develop my own companies, as well as help others learn to be specific, targeted, and focused to get exactly what they want in life. Again, I'm Stephen Meade, and this is the BullsEye Guy podcast. Stephen Meade again, back with another BullsEye Guy podcast. I think I make this comment every week, but they are coming fast and furious. Always something fun and exciting at the Groove radio stations downtown LA again. Swedish sitting to my right off camera. I don't know if I'll bring him in on this one. This is a bunch of sales stuff, so this isn't always as interesting to him, but you never know, right? Even as a musician, you always have to learn about sales. And again, I mention it over and over, but in my career, I was 22, went to work, financial services, and I read 357 books. And every time I say that, people go, that's so many. How did you do that? It's one book per week. It's really not that difficult to do if you commit yourself. But out of that was a lot of sales training, financial services. So the topic today is going to be, I have 13 sales tips here. I don't know if we'll get through all 13, and these aren't even my favorite top 10. These are just some unique sales techniques that I gathered and garnered through, again, hundreds of books, thousands of hours. Tom Hopkins, Tony Robbins. There's a lot of great stuff, and some of these techniques are an amalgamation of different sort of masters, but put it all together. Let me put it in perspective for you. Let's see how many of you would sign up for what I'm going to describe to you. My job when I was doing financial services was not to sell financial services. I was a recruiter. Think of it like a real estate company. You can be an agent. If you're a broker, as a broker, you make money off all your agents. But as a broker, you have more responsibility, more liability, more expenses. But the better your agents do, the better you do as a whole because you're making money. So the goal is, can you convince people to come work for you and train them to go be financial services experts? What were they selling? We were selling life insurance on full commission at night to all of your friends. How many of you are going to sign up for that deal? Are you ready? How many of you want to go sell insurance at night to your friends? Probably not very many. Which means you have to get good at sales. And sales is not about talking. We used to draw these cool pictures. What's a better salesperson? And on this side, we'd have a picture of a guy with a big mouth and little ears. And then on the other side was a picture with a small mouth and big ears. And the sales guy is the person who knows how to listen. But listening becomes an aspect and a skill set of asking good questions. And the questions are really the sales techniques. What's the psychology behind asking good questions? That's what sales is. And then we were also convinced, rightly or wrongly, I fully believe it was a sales cult. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but our sales capacity of what we learned was fascinating. We drilled on everything down to the word, down to the pause, down to the second, just like a musician would, just like a professional athlete, just like I'm not a basketball player. I joke. The only thing Michael Jordan and I have in common, we were both cut from basketball in 10th grade. Now, he went on to obviously do great things. I went on to do something different, but we were cut. But in basketball, we used to have to practice shooting free throws, and I sucked. I really did. I don't know why I tried to play, but practice makes perfect, but you need the skills. You need the techniques. I'm going to go through some fun, cool, interesting sales techniques. So for anybody that's in sales, this will make a lot of sense. You will be excited by it, hopefully learn. If not, you never know. And I thought I tried to put these down in order. I have a sheet in front of me. I feel like Rush Limbaugh, even though I'm not. I'm going to snap my paper for those of you that watch or listen to Rush. He snaps his papers all the time. So I have a list of sales techniques. Let me just pick one. I'm going to pick one, number 4. Again, no particular order. There's a great technique called feel, felt, found. May not know what feel, felt, found is. And it's funny, whenever I watch television commercials or whenever I'm with somebody in sales, I can laugh at what they do. There's a funny commercial on right now with Tom Selleck. Those of you who may not remember. Actually, Tom had an interesting news show, but years ago, Magnum PI. And I don't even remember what he's selling. I think it's reverse mortgages. Is it Eagles over here? Thumbs up. Feel Felt Found says, here's what's going on. It says, hey, you may be scared to do a reverse mortgage. You may not know what a reverse mortgage is. Again, I'm not pitching a reverse mortgage. Just watch what I know how you feel. I felt the same way. Here's what I found out. So the way Feel Felt Found works is I know how you feel. That provides empathy. That means you understand the person, right? We used to teach as well. This isn't even on mine. We used to say, I can appreciate what you're saying. I don't understand it because you're wrong. That was just one of our sales jokes. I could never understand somebody who had an alternative point. I could appreciate it, but my job was to convince them that they were wrong. So I didn't want to understand it. Feel Felt Found. I know how you feel. I felt the same way. Now, not only are you showing empathy, you're putting yourself on the side of that person. However, here's what I found out. And that Feel Felt Found allows you to transition through to whatever your point wants to be. This could be something you're trying to sell. This could be a guy who says, I like this car. I know how you feel. I felt the same way. Here's what I found out when I look. So Feel Felt Found moves you through a psychological sequencing of what's called empathy. Again, I could spend hours on every single one of these techniques. The job of today and the goal of today with the podcast is to just give you 6, 8, 10 that you can go practice on your own. If you want something deeper, let me know. Feel Felt Found's a fun one. Here's another one. Let's see. Reduce to the ridiculous. I just saw this one the other day on a commercial. Again, when you know and understand sales, you can watch commercials and it's fascinating. So I'll give you an example of one commercial that does it wrong, somewhat right. Another commercial that does it even differently. Reduce to the ridiculous says, how much does something cost? Oh, well, this item costs $100 per month. Reduce to the ridiculous breaks it down. Now, I should do this in order because I'll come back. Before you reduce to the ridiculous, which means you're going to break it down to a smaller dollar amount, you actually want to isolate the final objection. So again, I didn't have these in good order. Let's stay with reduce to the ridiculous. We're there. $100 a month sounds like a lot of money. That's really only $25 a week. If you break it down per day, it's about, I don't know my math, $2 per day, $3? Yeah. And the reason I know that, I'm joking, because $3 a day is less than you spend on that cup of coffee. We used to sell life insurance. Sometimes it was $100 a month and people go, oh, $100, I don't have it. And look around and you see the Starbucks cup sitting there and you can reduce to the ridiculous. Isn't protecting your family worth a cup of coffee per day? We're only talking $3. $100 sounds like a lot of money. $3 per day doesn't sound so bad. And then the last component of reduce to the ridiculous is tie it to something tangible. Cup of coffee, a pack of gum, 50 cents, whatever the case may be. And again, there's 2 commercials out right now. Here we are, December 2019. There's one I see all the time. Great, I don't call it a program. Great, what's the word I'm looking for, Eagle? Great program, process. It's basically Mark Wahlberg and the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. All right. So it's $11 a day. And they picked it because of 9/11. I understand that. But it says, can't you afford $11 a day? That's all it is to help provide. I'm going to cough. Sorry, Eagle gave me a tip. Little leftover from the New York side. $11 a day to provide for families who were affected by 9/11. There's another commercial out, and I've seen these for years. It's for Shriners Hospital. And it's with the little kids. And it's funny because you watch these kids. They have the same ones every year, and you get to actually see them growing up, and they're amazing. And it's $19 a month. Well, $19 from my math is more than $11. But the little kid who's so great says, can't you afford 63 cents a day? 63 cents a day to help a child. That's reducing to the ridiculous. So learning how, when you've got a big sale or a small one, divide it down to weekly or daily gets it down to a smaller amount. Now you're overcoming a smaller dollar amount. So that's reduced to the ridiculous and tie it to something tangible. Let's see what else I have on here. I have a lot of fun ones. The power of no. This one's from a sales standpoint, from a sales technique. Again, selling insurance is tough. We used to have to convince people the definition of sales is not what's in your best interest, it's what's in theirs. Sales is having that person convince themselves that it's in their best interest to move ahead, regardless of whether it could be a car, it could be a computer, it could be insurance to protect their family. What's the power of no? As a salesperson, you were taught that you always get a no. And actually, our prior episode, Rob Charles was in here from Goldfinger, and he talked about the Dale Carnegie numbers, which we've seen as well. It's 100 calls for 10 to get one sale. You know, we've never done cold calling. I've taught how to do referral-based calling, but you get a lot of no's. And when you're in sales, people would come back and think, oh, well, the guy told me no. I feel horrible. Here's the psychology of how we would overcome no. This is the story we would teach people to tell themselves. And I can't do full role playing, but power of no says, if you were a fireman, I don't know if Eagle can play along. He doesn't have a microphone, but that's okay. If you were a fireman and you went to work, what's the worst that could happen for a fireman when he goes to work? Get caught on fire and get killed. I mean, you catch on fire is bad enough, but you could get killed as a fireman. You go to work as a policeman. God, those guys put their life on the line every day. That's why we have thanks for your service. So those of you guys saying thank you all for going out there. Every day you put your life on the line, and what's the worst that could happen? You could get killed. Construction worker. I grew up in construction. My family, I know people who fell off buildings and got killed. And a salesperson, you go to work, what's the worst that can happen? The guy tells you no. Ouch. Give me a break. No is just another way to say, I should have been better. I need to get better at learning how to get people to say yes. It's not that they're telling you no. It's they're saying not yet. And not yet sometimes means you need to get better. So no is about what stories we tell ourselves in comparison to other things that could be bad. What else do I like? Oh, this is a fun one. This is what do you like most, least, alter, or change, which is also called a triplicate of choice. Again, these are sales techniques. These are quippy. Some people like, and we use this one a lot with insurance. Any of you that are insurance salespeople, any of you that are real estate, entertainment that has a manager, basically any of you that want to use it on a relationship, like we won't go that far down the relationship side, but this one's pretty easy. It's psychological manipulation, psychological jujitsu. I'm going to use it for an example of insurance. It could be translated to your business. A lot of times people, one of the objections that we would get is, I'm happy with my agent. All right? So if you're happy with your agent, basically you can say, oh, what do you like most about him? What did you like least about him? What would you alter or change? What that's giving you are the insights of what you need to move somebody forward. Where we really used it was in recruiting, right? My job, again, was to hire people to come to work. People, oh, I'm happy with my job. Oh, I'm happy where I am. Hey, no problem. What do you like most about your current job? I like these things. And again, we want 2 or 3 things, specific, target, bullseye. What do you like least about your current job? I like this and this. What do you like least about your current job? I don't like these things. What would you alter or change? Oh, I would change this. What do I like most? I like the money. I like the people I work with. What do you like least? I don't like my boss. What would you alter or change? I want more vacation time. Great. You've just given me the parameters to paint a picture of how you should come to work for me, because you can make more money, you're around great people, you can set your own hours, you don't have a boss, and you can take vacation whenever you want. What do you like most? What do you like least? What would you alter or change? Gives you the information to build a new story for somebody to make a change. So that's one of the fun ones. The other one, when you're talking about making a change, again, whether it's agent, whether it's real estate, basically you can say, oh, well, you're happy with your agent. I'm happy with my broker. I'm happy with the person doing my custom shirts. I was just with Jimmy, my guy from Hong Kong and New York. I love all my custom shirts. These guys are amazing. Anybody wants custom shirts, let me know. Jimmy and the guys are so cool. Anyway, if you've got somebody you like, what you say is, oh, Great. I'm glad that you like your current broker. How long have you had them? I've had them for 3 years. Oh, what did you have before? This is the trick. This is the technique. What did you have before? Who did you have before? And they'll tell you, oh, I had so-and-so. Great. Why did you make a change? What was the benefit? Oh, I made a change because of this and this. So you made a change and you like your new broker better. Yes, of course. Great. Here's the killer line. If I could show you how to accomplish A, B, and C, whatever you know they want, why would you deny yourself the opportunity to improve your situation because you improved it with a change before? Why would you deny yourself the opportunity to make a change? And again, it leads to another one of the techniques I have on here. It's not just the power of no, it's a different power of no. People really want to tell you no. In sales, they really want to say no. So when you phrase a question by saying, why would you deny yourself the opportunity? It's a weird way of them saying, I wouldn't, but they want to say no. They feel like they're saying no. It's not tricking people. These are just all interesting techniques, right? Why would you deny yourself the opportunity to make a change when you made a change before and benefited? You're trying to break up what's called their, it's called their submodality. It's called their framework. If you think of somebody's decisions like 4 legs of a table, you want to start shaking those legs. You want to get them a little shaky on their foundation to move them forward with sales. Hopefully you guys like this. Again, so much of this is manipulation. But if you're doing it in their best interest, you're trying to help people rationalize their decisions. Another fun one, I'm flying through them. The hot potato, also called a feedback loop. Hot potato's interesting. When somebody asks you a question, what are you doing Friday night? What do you have going on next week? Will you be in town in January? That first question is not the real question. When people ask you a question, they're not usually saying what they really mean. They're waiting for you to give them an answer so then they can trick you into what the real question is. And I don't mean trick in a bad way. What are you doing Friday night? Nothing that I know of. Great, man. I'd love for you to babysit. I have to go to an event. What are you doing next week? On Saturday? Nothing. Why? I'm moving. Can you come help me with my box? You want a hot potato. And so the analogy, the mental vision is a hot potato. Somebody throws you a hot potato. And again, if you're too old to know what a hot potato is, like let's say somebody throws you a hot stone, something hot in your hands, you're going to look at it and you're going to throw it back to them as quickly as possible. A hot potato question, when somebody says, hey, what are you doing on Friday? Excuse me again. You want a feedback loop to them and say, oh, not sure. What would you like me to be doing? Oh, what are you doing next Saturday? Oh, I'm not sure. What did you have in mind? Oh, I thought you could come help me move. Wow, I'm not sure. Let me check. I'll get back to you. All of our power of three words. I'm not sure. Let me check. I'll get back. Hot potato says when somebody asks you a question, what you're really doing is feeding it back to them because you want them to clarify the real question so you can answer it before. It may be something you want to do. It may be something that's a good opportunity. It also may be something you kind of want to think twice about. So that feedback loop is basically, whether it's a hot potato, I also call it a ping pong. Somebody shoots a question to you. You want to shoot the question back and get them to clarify it. So this hot potato clause says, somebody asks you a question, how can you clarify it by asking them the same question back? And you can't do it directly. What are you doing next Friday? Well, what do you want me to be doing? Some of it's in delivery. How can you soften it? How can you move it around? and that's a fun one. So speaking of moving it around, I'm jumping down here. Again, I've got my list in front of me, my trusty list here. I know it's on here. Let me find it. Aha. It's number 11. These are what are called tie downs. Tie downs are how you move things around in terms of what's called a micro agreement. Micro agreements, again, so many of the techniques I have are 6 or 7 or 8 of them. So I may throw these things out and then in my head, I'm going, wait, I have to clarify that. A micro agreement, would you agree, Eagles, when you get somebody to kind of say yes? So hopefully as you're going along, if you can get them to say yes, would you agree it gets easier at the end for them to say yes? But potentially the more often you can get them to say yes. Right. But if I put the agreement at the end, it softens it up where if I'm trying to get them to say yes and I say it at the end, then if they agree, it's easier, right? But if I put it at the beginning, would you agree the following? What's called a tie down, I just did this to Eagle 5 times. A tie down is how do you drop in a micro agreement? You're talking about something. I really like this car. Would you agree it's a great color? Well, that kind of implies a yes. It doesn't demand a yes. It implies, would you agree it's a good color? And they may or may not agree. Would you agree this is a good decision? If you put a tie down at the very beginning, you are demanding a yes or no. What I mean by that, again, this so much goes back to insurance. Hopefully you can relate it. If I turn to Eagle and say, you want to protect your family, don't you? Well, I'm demanding a yes and putting him in a situation where he can't say no because that sounds bad. But if I invert the tie down, Eagle, would you agree that protecting your family is a good thing? Or wait, let me redo that. I haven't done this. So if protecting a family is a good thing, it's something you would want to do, wouldn't you? Yeah. Putting it at the end ties them down. Now, where it gets really fun and tricky is you can do a tie down with the power of no that says, hey, Eagle, if you could protect your family, there's no reason you wouldn't want to do that, would you? Right. And they're saying no, of course not, because no means yes, and you want them to say no, which means yes, but they really wanted to say no. We're learning how to do tie downs that are either demanded, implied, or inferred. It's where you drop these things in the situation of a conversation. Would you agree? Makes it easier. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. As you get good at these things, you can invert it where you can ask a question that implies or infers a yes, but ask it in a way where they say no, which is what they really want to say. Again, salespeople are going to love this. The rest of you are like, what is that guy rambling about? Anyway, why would you deny yourself the benefit? When does a no become a yes? I guess I'm rocking through these things. I'm clicking them off. Isolate the final objection. So this goes back to where I started at the beginning when I was talking about reduce to the ridiculous. Again, I'm going to use insurance because it's the easiest one and the best one I know. It can be used for any kind of sales. A lot of times you'll get an objection. And in financial services for us, we had 3 main objections. It costs too much. I'm happy with my agent. I don't want to make a change. And the first one, it costs too much. I'm happy with my agent. You have to figure out what those are. So if someone says, hey, I'm not ready to move forward, that doesn't give you anything. There's no feedback loop. You have nothing to make your final decision on. And what you want to do is if you know what your top 2 or 3 objections are, you want to find a way to ask questions to build micro yeses before you get to what you think is the final objection for the no. Again, complicated, but not really. You're selling insurance. It's $100 a month. You know that money's the problem. At least that's what your guess is. You know that's probably one of the issues. All right. How do you do that? Well, you want to start by some questions that says, if you're interested in possibly moving ahead, let me ask you a couple questions to clarify my thinking, right? It's not, why don't you want to do this? What's wrong with you? It's help me clarify my thinking. So the empathy comes back on me. I'm the one that doesn't understand this. I'm going to clarify my thinking. What you want to do when you clarify your thinking to reduce to the final objection or isolate the final objection says, just to clarify my thinking, are you unhappy with the following? And again, if you're a car salesman, real estate, I would kill it in any of the sales industries if I wanted to go in. I just don't. Back to it. Are you happy with the level of service I might provide you? Again, you need to ask questions that you know you're going to get a yes. Are you happy with the face amount and the amount of coverage? Are you happy with the fact that we set up the college account for your kids? You want to ask 2 or 3 or 4 questions that get you to a yes. Then you want to get to what you think is the final objection. And our example here, it's the money. So are you happy with the level of service? Are you happy with the face amount and the coverage? Are you happy protecting your kids and your college? Great. What about the money? Is it the money? Is $100 a month an issue? Well, Yeah, it's really the money. Here's the transitional sales line. Great. I can appreciate and understand that. Again, I can appreciate it. Other than that, other than the money, is there any other reason you would not move ahead? You want to isolate that final objection, because if you don't, you say, oh, it's the money. Okay, well, let's talk about that. $100 a month, reduced to the ridiculous. That's a cup of coffee. Let's go ahead. Oh, well, no, I'm not. You want to isolate the final objection. Other than the money, is there any other reason you wouldn't move ahead? You want them to say yes or no. Again, one of my sales techniques, if you say it, they doubt it. If they say it, it's true. If you say, well, if we get the money, can we move ahead? No, you say it, they doubt it. They say it, it's true. Other than the money, is there any other reason we couldn't move ahead with this transaction? You want them to say, no, that's it. Great. So let's talk about the money. What they've done is they've mentally, verbally committed to you that that's the final objection. It may not be. You still get people go squirrely, but now we've isolated down to the money is the problem. We can reduce to the ridiculous. We've isolated down to their agent that they're happy with, and we can do alternate a choice and what you have before. We can isolate down to feel, felt, found. I know how you feel. I felt the same way. Here's what I found out when I made a change. Without that isolation of the final objection, you're constantly going to be running in circles trying to close a sale. And how do you close a sale? This is negotiation. I know I talked about negotiation a while ago, maybe episode 2 or 3, but I gave my number one negotiation factor, my number one negotiation tip is called the flinch factor. Not going to be as relevant here in sales, but it's easy. I was with a guy named Chris Voss, and I think I've told this story. I want Chris to come down and be one of my podcast guests. He's number one hostage negotiator in the world. He's actually got a book out. And I joked with Chris when I met him. I said, I can teach the best negotiation technique in a quarter of a second. He's like, that's impossible. It's like, no, we talked about it. It's flinch. Somebody offers you something, you want to flinch. But the opposite is if you're trying to sell something, you're on the other side. And I use the Pawn Star guys a lot. If you haven't seen the show Pawn Stars, it's great. They've got so many sales techniques in there, and people look like they think Rick and those guys are just kind of bumbling around. No. Somebody walks in with a pen. Wow, that's a good looking pen. What do you want to do with it? You want to sell it or pawn it? I want to sell it. They don't look and go, well, I think that pen's worth X. No. You say it, they doubt it. They say it's true. Their first question, what are you looking to get? Person says, I want $600. Great. Now they know $600 is the mark. The first thing they do, watch the show, you'll get it. The first thing they do every time, 600. Wow. Ooh, not sure. I've seen other pens like that. Boy, they flinch. Even if they ultimately give you what you want, they still flinch for a negotiation technique to be able to negotiate down. Then they do step 2 in a negotiation. They make a counteroffer. Hot potato, right? What do you want? Man, that pen, I'm not sure. I think I'll give you, best I could do is $300. They make the offer and then they shut up. The hardest thing to do when you make a counteroffer in a negotiation, if you make that offer, you shut up. Technique is called he who speaks first loses. And again, this isn't about winning or losing, but what I mean by that, and it's uncomfortable if you say, well, I'm only willing to offer you $300 and you're quiet. 1 second feels like 10. 10 seconds feels like a minute. 1 minute feels like 10 minutes. And what happens is you get uncomfortable and you're like, well, maybe I could give you $350. Maybe I can give you $400. The minute you make a counteroffer against yourself, you've already crumbled. So guys who know that in sales, like I said, I've sat in a meeting before where I was up against a guy who had sales training like I did, decades of it. And I don't remember if I made the offer or he did, but whoever made the offer, we both sat there in silence and stared at each other for almost 5 minutes because we knew whoever spoke first lost. And finally, we both started laughing, cracking up, and we got it done, but it was fun to do. If you make an offer, that final objection, when you know what it is and you make a counteroffer, if you make an offer, he who speaks first loses. You have to have the fortitude in sales to make an offer and be quiet until the person responds. I have a bunch more. Told you I wasn't sure if we get through all of them, but looks like I got through a bunch. Not even my top 10, but these are some fun ones. Any of you that are in sales, you'll know and appreciate it. If you're not and you want to be in sales, this is the basis of how you start learning some fun things. So there you have it. Steve and Meade, the Bullseye Guy podcast, coming to you again from the Groove radio stations, downtown LA. Love these guys. If you're ever in LA, let me know. Check out. Maybe they'll give you a tour of the studio and all these things. I forgot what these were called earlier. They're album covers from when Eagle used to DJ. Great stuff. Anyway, Steve and Meade, the Bullseye Guy podcast, signing out. Thanks so much.